building 3 feet and so on. So I found them all to be laser focused on what their needs were, and I asked them, but I think they're reassured that we're going to be there for whatever they need, including search and rescue off the shore of the Coast Guard and Coast Guard helicopters and the like.
Mr. President.
I've been listening into President Biden there at the White House, giving a briefing to the nation on both Hurricane Idalia and the latest coming out of Maui and the wildfires there. The president talking about the government response to both of these disasters. And he mentioned building more emergency infrastructure on the island of Maui, $95 million being slated for that project. We're going to continue to monitor this press conference and bring you the very latest. In the meantime, welcome to Scripps News Live. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. We're going to continue to track Hurricane Idalia. The storm briefly strengthening into a Category 4 hurricane before making landfall in Florida's Big Bend as a Category 3 storm. Like you just heard the president addressing the storms in Florida, also talking about the latest coming out of Maui. And he's been speaking at the White House, where we find our national White House correspondent, Haley Bull. Haley, we were just listening into the president's message there. Give us a little bit more insight in terms of the government's response to both disasters.
Hey, good afternoon, Veronica. Well, President Biden is underscoring the federal government's support for both immediate response in these disasters and also the commitment towards the long-term recovery. Of course, right now, as this hurricane is unfolding, that is a large focus here. President Biden speaking to the governors of Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. He said he spoke with Governor DeSantis several times, reiterating that this is a time when politics is put to the side, saying that there's a level of trust built between the two when it comes to disasters, referencing back to Hurricane Ian last year and the coordination between the state and federal government. When it comes to this response right now, officials have pre-positioned both supplies, resources, and personnel ahead of the storms and say they are ready to deploy those as needed. The FEMA administrator speaking earlier today said on that phone call with President Biden, Governor DeSantis indicated right now they don't have any unmet needs, but at the president's direction, Administrator Criswell is heading to Florida, where she will assess the situation and how the federal government can further respond. Additionally, the president today outlining, as you mentioned, a $95 million investment through the bipartisan infrastructure law to help the response in Hawaii. Specifically, this will help strengthen the electric grid there, including parts on Maui when you're looking at some of the poles and the material to help reduce wildfire risk. Big picture here, the president pointing to the climate crisis. While officials aren't pinpointing an exact cause of the disasters, they are being very upfront and saying that we are experiencing more and more extreme weather events. And as Administrator Criswell said earlier today, storms that are intensifying more rapidly. The president referring to some of that as he talked about the governor's responses further north in the southeast when you're looking at South Carolina, Georgia, as the track of this hurricane had changed further to the coast. So we are expecting to see more updates today as the president meets with his cabinet and other administration officials right now, Veronica.
So I know that $95 million investment is going to come from the Inflation Reduction Act, Haley, and it's going to be earmarked for Hawaii. But I wanted to ask you a little bit more about this storm, about Idalia. Are there any funding concerns here?
Well, the White House is confident that they have the funding to help with the immediate disaster response, including for this hurricane. But keep in mind, the White House also put in a supplemental funding request to Congress earlier in the month that included for disaster response. The FEMA administrator says they have activated their immediate needs funding. They believe that they have the funding for both Maui and this hurricane, but that is something that they are pushing Congress to pass to make sure that there is funding going forward here for FEMA.
Haley Haley Bull reporting live at the White House. Haley, always appreciate it. Thank you. So a state of emergency is in effect right now in Florida, the Carolinas, and Georgia. Hurricane warnings posted up and down the southeastern coast. Idalia currently centered over southeastern Georgia. The coastal town of Savannah declaring a local state of emergency earlier. Scripps News national correspondent Clayton Sandell reports now from Savannah and joins us now live. Wow, Clayton, conditions don't look great where you're at. Give us a lay of the land and tell us what you're seeing.
Hey, Veronica, good afternoon. Yeah, we're definitely starting to see some stronger rain bands. We get some intense rain and the winds are picking up now. Savannah is basically locked down. You can see the famous river boats here that have all been tied up. They are not going anywhere. As I said, a lot of businesses here, you can see right over here, have started to stack their sandbags to try and keep a lot of the water out because right now we are under all kinds of warnings, tornado warnings, storm surge warnings. We've had a few tornado warnings so far today. So no evacuations yet, but there is a lot of people right now that do not have electricity. But the mayor says they are going to open up basically what they call a safety center. So it's essentially a place where people can hang out and ride out the storm. I also talked to the Red Cross. They are planning on opening a shelter here as well as shelters across Georgia. Now, when this storm comes through and gets to its peak here in Savannah, it's expected to be a Category 1 hurricane or a tropical storm. But the mayor says people shouldn't get too caught up in the difference between those storms. He says he just needs people to be ready, be prepared, and to take this storm seriously. Here's what he said.
The fact is that Hurricane 4s kill people, so do tropical storms. And so people say, oh, well, it's gone down, and, we all become kind of emergency management meteorologists when this all goes down. The fact is the difference between a 1 and a 4, is really negligible. That's categories they use.
So officials here are warning that we could see a lot of trees down, more power outages, and of course those extremely strong winds. And you can see behind me here, this is the Talmadge Bridge that connects Georgia to South Carolina. There is traffic up there now, but they are going to shut that down as soon as the winds become too strong and too dangerous. One bit of good news, the Georgia governor says that this storm is moving fast and the most destructive parts of it are relatively narrow. But you hear it a lot here in Savannah, Veronica. They keep saying we are hoping for the best, but we are preparing for the worst. Storm peak should be here in just a few hours.
All right,
Veronica?
Clayton Sandell reporting live from Savannah, Georgia for us. Clayton, thank you so much. So Idalia unleashing winds of up to 125 miles an hour as it moved through northern Florida this morning. Our Tammy Eswick is on the ground in Jacksonville, Florida. And Tammy, tropical storm conditions are expected to continue where you've been at throughout the day. You and I were talking earlier, and we really started to see the beginning of that water rise. What is the flooding looking like right now?
Well, Veronica, it's still localized flooding on some of the usual streets, according to a lot of the residents that live around here. Like if you live near the waterfront, like right here in this area, we were on River Road earlier today, we're a little bit further up, you're going to see street flooding. Now, police have made their way to this section because there were too many people in this area taking pictures and the waves were crashing over. It made for a dangerous situation, especially when you look at the edge right here where these concrete pillars are now lying on the ground. Well, allegedly, according to some local reports, this is from this current storm. Now, this was repaired back in 2017 during Hurricane Ida, and apparently this has been ruined again during this hurricane. So they're going to have to find a way to fix this. But for now, police are keeping people out of this area to try and keep them safe as they want to take their pictures and see what's going on out here. But this right now is more of a wind event. We understand that city officials are closing down some of these streets where there's way too much wind and there's way too much water to keep people safe. But we are seeing a lot of wind, but we are still expecting a possible storm surge of 12 feet and possibly over that. Veronica?
All right, Tammy Eswick reporting live in Jacksonville, Florida. Tammy, stay safe out there. So climate experts studying Idalia's path have said the intensity of this storm system has been fueled by intensely warm waters in the Gulf of Mexico. The hurricane making landfall in Florida this morning around 8 a.m. with maximum sustained winds of about 125 miles an hour as a major Category 3 storm. That storm now a Category 1, but it's left major flooding and wind damage in its path. A growing body of research shows climate change is impacting the frequency and the intensity of the storms. Let's go ahead and bring in Daniel Guilford. He's a meteorologist and climate scientist over at Climate Central. Daniel, thank you so much for joining us. Now, we were just speaking to our reporter right there. She's in Jacksonville. I understand that you're in Orlando, which is inland. What are you seeing there right now?
Yeah, right now there's occasional gusts coming through here or there. We actually had a gust that knocked over a tree in my backyard earlier. Thankfully, everyone is safe, but there's definitely are impacts here on the ground in Orlando. Of course, we aren't dealing with the flooding that we're seeing, particularly on the West Coast and parts of the East Coast along Georgia, for instance.
So let's talk a little bit about climate change and how maybe warmer waters are affecting these storm systems. You know, earlier the FEMA administrator was calling this one of the worst storms that Florida has seen in 100 years. Do you agree with that?
I think it's a very dramatic storm, and in particular, the way in which it sort of rapidly intensified overnight is pretty extraordinary. You know, right now we are seeing temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico that are warmer than they've ever been in modern human history. Those warm temperatures mean there's a lot more energy available for the storm, so it can sort of grab that energy, convert it into winds, and then those winds do a few things. They actually cause damage, like we're seeing here in Florida across much of it, but they also bring along water, sort of fetching along the water along the coastlines. That drives storm surge along the West Coast right now. We've seen quite intense storm surge. And so those two things are happening as the sea surface temperatures are getting warmer. The storm has more energy available to it. It's a little too early to speculate on whether this particular storm was influenced by those warm sea surface temperatures, but we know for sure those sea surface temperatures are there, and the environment is really conducive to a powerful storm like Idalia has been.
And Daniel, as you and I have been talking, we've been looking at this video of the storm surge and that rising water, which is quite frightening. What do you think folks should expect at this point?
Yeah, I think it's important to stay vigilant. You know, damages can still occur sort of after hurricanes occur as things are settling. I would just be really careful and cautious as you're cleaning up. I think we should expect that as things eventually return to normal, you know, these damages also have sort of a long tail. We have to think about how are we going to build back? How are we going to increase the resilience of our coastal communities against extreme events like this? And how are we going to address our climate contributions going forward? We know these extreme temperatures in the Gulf played a part in sort of changing the environment in which this storm grew. So are we going to reduce our carbon pollution going forward, which can limit warming and potentially reduce the amount of intensity these storms can bring?
And we're talking far ahead into the future, obviously, but I want to go ahead and get through this hurricane season, Daniel. What more can we expect to see in terms of this hurricane season specifically? I know that we are on Storm I. How bad could it get?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a little bit difficult to say, you know, 3-4 weeks from now what could occur. We already know there's still some tropical activity that we're seeing right out there in the Atlantic, and sea surface temperatures are quite a bit warmer than what we normally expect this time of year. Even though this is already our hurricane season. So we would expect the hurricane season to remain active. Whether or not we'll have a storm quite like Idalia again, it's a little too early to say, but the conditions are right for a storm like Idalia to occur again. And so I would just caution anyone who lives along the Gulf Coast or the eastern seaboard to remain vigilant because this season isn't over yet.
All right, Daniel Guilford, climate scientist at Climate Central. Daniel, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it. Coming up next on Scripps News Live, emergency operations underway across parts of Florida. We'll have an update from one city after a quick break. We'll be right back.
I was having problems with my legs and my feet.
I suffered a lot of cramps
swelling.
I would dread going up and down steps.
Tingling in my legs due to circulation issues.
The aches and pains have just continued to increase.
Did you know if you have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, or are over 40, your leg aches and pains could be from poor circulation? Revitive can help reduce leg aches and pains, swelling, and cramps. Revitive uses breakthrough technology to get your calf muscles pumping like a second heart to increase blood flow, reducing leg aches and pains, cramps, or swollen feet and ankles.
Plus, it's drug-free.
The cramping was terrible, and I don't get that anymore. Thank you, Revitive.
Revitive is FDA cleared and clinically proven to increase oxygen-rich blood flow during use. The smart stimulation works so well, over 3 million people use Revitive.
As a firefighter, I'm constantly on my feet. I wish I had known about Revitive a lot earlier. It would have made a huge difference in really who I am today.
Revitive has given me a better quality of life because I am living without pain.
Revitive reduces leg pains 2 times more than exercise alone in just 6 weeks.
We want to take walks. We want to do more social activities, just the typical things in life that I did not feel well enough before Revitive that I was able to do.
Now, Revitive is regenerizing my legs and making me feel like, let's do more.
Go to Revitive.com now to learn how Revitive can help reduce leg aches and pains, swelling, and cramps.
The doctor said, go for it. And I'm in the best shape in terms of my legs and my ankles and my feet than I've ever been.
Try Revitive. You will see the difference. It works. It worked for me.
Get the most out of life with Revitive. Visit Revitive.com. That's REVITIVE.com. Or call
1-800-317-6641. That's 1-800-317-6641 today. Or visit Revitive.com. Order now.
The Omaha Steaks Anniversary Sale is here. Right now, we're offering 50% off site-wide. The only number that hasn't changed is our 100% guarantee that you'll love every bite. And if you've never tried Omaha Steaks, save an extra $30 with promo code FIRSTTIME. Visit omahasteaks.com/TV today. Why wouldn't you want to save 50% on 100% satisfaction? Just a little bargain hunting wisdom from Omaha Steaks.
An inflammatory podcast and blog targeting minorities.
He made people feel very uncomfortable.
Openly ran by a former service officer to Bahrain and current employee of the State Department.
He may well have his right to say what he wants, but not to get paid for it by the taxpayers.
But after years of complaints from coworkers and even Congress, is the extreme podcaster a potential risk to national security?
Should State Department employees be afraid?
Tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Scripps News Tonight.
FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell says that she is heading to Florida today and will tour damaged areas with Governor Ron DeSantis tomorrow. Governor DeSantis is saying so far the state has no confirmed fatalities from the storm, and he says a last-minute path change prevented cities like Tallahassee from seeing a bigger impact.
There's been rain and wind, there's some debris, but nothing, I think, like if that wall would have impacted Tallahassee, I think you would have seen significantly more damage. So that bend northeast really helped Tallahassee and Leon County.
In Levy County, Florida, first responders along with the National Guard are working to rescue people from the flooding. The high tide cycle was expected to peak in just the past hour. So Levy County is home to Cedar Key, which is about 90 miles south of where Idalia made landfall. Severe flooding has been reported there, along with downed trees across the city. More than 8 feet of storm surge was recorded. Forrest Sanders with Scripps News Tallahassee has the details.
I'm Forrest Saunders coming to you from Chiefland, Florida. It's about 27 miles away from Cedar Key, and you can see the conditions here are absolutely miserable. Idalia has pummeled this town all morning with rain like this, really strong sustained winds. I am drenched to the bone. You can see those trees behind me just whipping around. In fact, the motel that I'm standing by has had so much water just pushing into the doors and windows that they've had to put towels down to sop up all of that moisture that's coming through the door underneath the weather seals. It is a crazy situation here, but it could be so much worse. In fact, when you look out at places like Cedar Key, the conditions are much worse. The debris is terrible. They had horrible winds. some of the strongest that Idalia was bringing. And they had a just awful storm surge, which at last check was still rising. Buoys in the area recording 10 feet. And an expectation that this could go to 12 or 16 feet. That is an island community. It has one bridge, one way in and out, and that is it. And we heard from city officials that about 100 people decided to stay put and try and weather this storm. Now we are getting video and images, and we are seeing that water is running through the streets. It is still rising, and there is debris down everywhere. It almost makes what's going on here in Chiefland look wonderful by comparison. That is the latest out here. I'll send it back to you.
All right, Forrest Sanders reporting there from Chiefland, Florida for us. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. Thank you so much for joining us. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. And don't forget to check us out online. ScripsNews.com is a place. Now, if you're staying with us, we have much more news headed your way right here on Scripps News Live. Coming up next, we continue to follow Idalia's path, the latest out of Florida, and what's happening in the state of Georgia. That's straight ahead.
Attention all seniors. You can now get up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses, including your credit card debt, with no medical exam, starting at less than $1 a day.
Oh, honey, your dad and I can't stop talking about this baby that's coming.
We've also been thinking a lot about our future, and no matter what, we want to make sure we aren't leaving you and your family with any of our debts.
Just last week, we read that the price of a funeral can be $8,000 or more.
Wow, Jeff and I definitely would not have the money to pay for that.
And that's just a funeral. But you don't have to worry. We called, and with one phone call, we were eligible for $50,000 for our funeral and final expenses.
Well, that's great, but don't you need to take a medical exam to qualify? You and Mom have some health issues.
No. There's no medical exam, and we were able to get coverage right over the phone.
And our rates can never be increased, our benefits can never be decreased, and our coverage can never be canceled.
I'm so glad you made that call.
Don't leave loved ones with your debt. Call 800-339-7996 now and see if you qualify for up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses, starting at less than $1 a day. There's no medical exam, and you can be approved even if you have pre-existing health conditions. Your rates can never be increased, your benefits can never be decreased, and your coverage can never be canceled. There's no obligation. Call 800-339-7996 now. There's no paperwork, no hidden fees, and no waiting periods. And you can start coverage right over the phone, starting at less than $1 a day. Call 800-339-7996. That's 800-339-7996. 800-339-7996.
Let's get you up to date right now on some of our top stories. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell appearing to freeze up again while answering reporter questions. It happened while he was speaking to the press in Covington, Kentucky. Senator McConnell was asked about potential plans to run for his seat in 2026 before freezing up for around 20 seconds, as you can see right here. McConnell also froze in front of reporters in Washington, D.C. last month. Rudy Giuliani has lost the defamation lawsuit brought against him by two Georgia election workers. A federal judge ruled today in favor of Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss by default after Giuliani refused to turn over discovery in the case. The two workers, a mother and daughter, seek unspecified damages, though the payout could be in the millions. A trial on the damages amount is expected either later this year or early next year. And a sharp drop in hiring might be signaling that the labor market is cooling off. Payroll processing company ADP is saying about 177,000 jobs were created in the private sector this month. That's about 8,000 fewer jobs than economists were expecting. And it is the smallest increase since March. Hey there, there. Welcome to Scripps News Live. Great to see you today. I'm Veronica De La Cruz. We continue to follow Hurricane Idalia's path as the core of the storm moves across southeast Georgia. Idalia slamming into Florida's Big Bend as a Cat 3 storm earlier this morning. It quickly weakened into a Cat 1. Some hurricane warnings now being changed to tropical storm warnings. In Florida, as the state feels the after effects, we're giving you a look right now at Hillsborough County. All eyes now on Georgia and the Carolinas. The South Carolina governor issuing this warning to people.
We again ask everybody to realize that these storms are dangerous. There'll be water on the roads. There'll be water that does not appear to be deep. Your car could get flooded out. There could be a hole in the road. It could be washed out. If you can't see the road, then don't ride on it. Be very careful.
Several airports are set to close or have limited operations as Idalia moves through. The Tampa airport will be reopening for arriving flights beginning at 4 p.m. Eastern. Full operations will resume tomorrow. And St. Pete International reopened at the top of the hour. Charleston's airport will suspend its operations tonight at 6 p.m. with plans to reopen again tomorrow. So as for cancellations and delays, more than 1,000 flights around the United States have been canceled. More than 3,100 delays are being reported by flight tracking website FlightAware, and the majority of those flights are to and from Tampa International. To Largo, Florida now. Jada Williams with Scripps News Tampa joins us now live. Jada, bring us up to speed on what's happening there. What are you saying?
Well, guys, I've spent most of my day inside this truck right here behind me. This is one of the National Guard's trucks. They have their crew inside it going into the areas that they know are the hardest to hit areas. We started in Tarpon Springs, which is also in Pinellas County, one county over from Hillsborough. Earlier this morning, they actually had to help out the fire department. The water was so high that the truck, the fire engine, couldn't make it to one community where 2 mobile homes had caught fire. Now, this truck right here behind me, it's able to go through about 30 to 40 inches of water. So they had to pick up those firefighters, all of their gear, carry it through those flooded roads to get to that fire to put it out. I was along for that ride, seeing just how critical and how important it is to be able to have things like this available. Now, we have also been riding around with them today. They're also doing door knocks and wellness checks in these areas. Again, these are the places where those roads are flooded. It's not very easy for a police officer or even a loved one to get down these streets. So they're going down those roads, knocking on every door that seems like someone may have decided to stay home instead of evacuate, and making sure that everyone is inside is okay. Even if someone inside says, hey, I need some water, they have that on hand for them. So today has been a big day for rescue, and we've been along for that ride.
We talk about some of that rescue and we see all of that water, Jada. How many people have been impacted by this storm so far? Do you know?
It's hard to tell the number right now here in the Tampa Bay region, here in Pinellas County. A lot of those houses that are along the coast, and there are a lot of houses. I mean, it's Florida. You want to live on the water. A lot of those houses have seen that water come up. From what we've been able to see along for those rides, we haven't seen anyone in need of help here in Pinellas County since we've been there, and that is a good thing. I've talked to the people who are doing these rescue missions. They say that it's been anywhere from their first hurricane to their 10th hurricane, but those more seasoned people say that this is one of the better trips because they're not doing those really scary life-saving missions here. It's really been more of if someone comes to the door, they're thankful that it wasn't worse.
Good, and it sounds like people were prepared this time around. Jada Williams reporting from Pinellas Park near Tampa, Florida. Stay safe. So Idalia is going to continue to lash northern Florida with high winds, heavy rain all throughout the day and into tomorrow. Our Tammy Eswick is on the ground there in Jacksonville, Florida, and she joins us now. Tammy, I want to go ahead and circle back with you to get another update. I see that you are close to the water right now, and it's spraying up and over the fence there. But I do see people out and about. What are you seeing right now?
Oh yeah, for many people, I swear, Veronica, it's like playtime out here. So much so that the police have had to block off this park using barricades because the police tape simply wasn't keeping people out of harm's way. But yeah, the water is still coming up and over that area you see right there in front of you. These concrete railings, which are now destroyed, as you can see. It was actually destroyed once before during a hurricane in 2017, and now once again in 2023. It's a lot of work that's going to have to be done to put these back together again with this really hard wind that had been pushing up against them and somehow was able to get them to come tumbling down. This is more of a wind event right now at this point. We haven't seen much rain, although it did rain here and there in spots. But we want to take a look at a neighborhood that we went to a little bit earlier this afternoon. This is one of the lower lying areas in Jacksonville, Florida, an area that city officials had urged people to leave their homes and seek shelter in other places because they were afraid that the water could rise. But luckily, these people are okay. The water did not rise the way officials, the way residents, the way anyone thought, and it seems safe. A lot of those people, nonetheless, stayed in shelters today. They're still there. They are not home. They're waiting for the rest of the storm to pass through before they get home, which is a very good idea. But when we went there earlier, there wasn't much to be seen as far as water lingering around the streets. But those residents were prepared nonetheless. When we talked to them yesterday, they had planned to have flat boats to do rescues for people if needed and sandbags for their neighbors, which is something that the city said that they were not going to provide, but residents saying that they were going to band together and do that. But out here, we're near River Road. As you can see, the water once again climbing over this concrete structure, ruining it, but people just out here taking pictures and a gander at what they can as the remnants of what we can see from this hurricane continues to push its way through Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah, it almost
Veronica.
looks like business as usual, which is kind of strange considering I do see a barrier that you are kind of leaning up against, which I'm sure the authorities have put up. Have you talked to any of the folks that are out and about right now? What are they saying to you?
They're just excited. You know, whenever something like this happens, they just can't help but to want to take pictures. You know, we're in the age of social media, right? So everyone wants to get that amazing shot of the water coming over. And, you know, you got to think before you come out and do things like that, especially when you see the police are asking you to back off and go home. So, I mean, this is kind of what people are feeling. They just want to get out. They've been stuck inside for several hours and they didn't feel like anything was really happening. So they wanted to see what was going on. This is something that they can post, so they're out taking a look.
Interesting. All right. Better to be safe than sorry, though. Tammy Esek reporting live for us in Jacksonville, Florida. Tammy, thank you. So many businesses and major tourist spots that could be impacted by Idalia are keeping a close eye on this situation. In Bluffton, South Carolina, which is less than 5 miles from the Atlantic Ocean, the owner of a barbecue joint wants to stay open for business, but Idalia could actually force him to close early. Ted Huffman is the owner of Bluffton Barbecue. He joins me now by phone. Ted, thanks so much for your time today. What does it look like where you're at?
Thank you so much. Absolutely. First of all, I'd like to say prayers to everybody in Florida. I'm from Florida originally. I'm from the Tampa Bay area, actually, Manatee County, and my brother's there. Everybody's good. So anyway, just want to say that. And we've had bands of showers. We've had a couple of inches of rain in the last 24 hours. Winds are picking up here. Tonight we're going to get the worst of it. It's heading our way.
And Ted, moments ago, we were talking to our reporter who's on the ground in Jacksonville, Florida, and it kind of seemed like business as usual. There was a woman who was walking her dog. There were folks out on the sidewalk. I know that you're close to the ocean. What are you seeing right now? Are people out?
Not really. There's, Hilton Head, of course, is our barrier island, and we're 9 miles or so inland, so we're not too susceptible to the storm surge, if you will, but people, we take these storms seriously. There's not no one wants to be caught, and not only that, but this thing's come from the other direction, and it's just not the same dynamics as a regular hurricane that we're used to. I say regular, facetious. There's normally it comes from the east, and this is coming from the other side, and winds are a little bit different, and and water issues are a little bit different. The rain is what we're concerned about more than anything, and the wind, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand that. And I know that you've been through this before. So tell me what you've seen in the past and what you're expecting this time around.
Well, more than anything, there's people, once the school shut down, other businesses and things kind of domino into effect to try and accommodate parents and kids and employees with kids, and so a lot of people closed today early, and I get it, but during Matthew we stayed open. We were 4 days without power. It doesn't take power to cook barbecue, so we fed over 200 people during that time, and it the comfort food is a wonderful thing when you have trying situations like this, and barbecue. We got a mom and pop deal going here, and always try and stay open for the public. We let people do what they do best, and things tend to fall into place. We cook, other people deal with chainsaws and doing what they got to do to clear the streets, and we feed them if it comes right down to it. But it's just a good. It's nice to know that you got somewhere to go. If there's a lot of places, I'd say 90% of the business is closed today, and restaurants in particular, and mostly because of employees with kids. Schools are closed, so that it kind of falls into place. We try and take care of the community. The community takes care of us, and that's kind of the way it works. Like I say, let people do what they do best, and things tend to fall into place.
Yeah, it's really, really nice when I hear you put it that way, that you're trying to stay open because you provide comfort to the area with the comfort food. It's really, really good to hear. And I know that 300,000 people are without power in Florida. What are you going to do if the lights go out?
Well, there's that's a game changer, but so far so good. We're we anticipate power maybe losing power late tonight, maybe early tomorrow. This thing's moving quick, so I don't anticipate it being out for long. Our regular hours are 11 to 7-ish, and so hopefully by midday tomorrow it'll be back up, and we can business as usual. But you never know. But we'll continue to hang in there and do what we do best, like I say, and hopefully offer a little solace to normalcy.
That's really, really nice to hear.
Undo society,
Yes, absolutely. Ted Huffman is the owner of Bluffton Barbecue near Hilton Head, South Carolina. Ted, don't go too far because we're going to check back in with you in about an hour from now. Well, coming up next on Scripps News Live, we're going to head back to Savannah. Our Clayton Sandell is there. We're going to check in with him as Idalia makes its approach. We're going to have an update from there next. And we'd like to hear from you as well. Give us a call on our Scripps News viewer hotline. That number is on your screen. Call us toll free. It's 1-833-4-SCRIPPS. Again, it's 1-833-472-7477. Feel free to share your comments and your story ideas. We'll be right back.
This is an important message for the millions of Medicare recipients covered under your state's Medicaid. Medicare and Medicaid give you some benefits, but there are Medicare Advantage plans available with even more benefits and savings. Call the number on your screen and get a free Medicare benefits review to see if you qualify. A licensed insurance agent is standing by to take your call.
Just call 800-981-2945 now.
Some Medicare Advantage plans may include dental, vision, and hearing coverage, $0 copays for prescription drugs, and an annual allowance to spend on groceries, rent, and utilities for those who qualify. Plus, some plans may include lots of doctors and hospitals, all in-network. You don't get these benefits automatically. Call now and get a free, no-obligation benefits review.
Just call 800-981-2945 now. That's 800-981-2945.
Plus, certain beneficiaries may qualify based on income verification to enroll in their state-based Medicare savings program. That can add up to $164 back to their Social Security check every month. Call the number on your screen to see if you qualify for this state-based program. A licensed insurance agent is standing by to take your call.
Just call 800-981-2945 now.
Medicare and Medicaid give you some benefits, but there are Medicare Advantage plans available with even more benefits and savings. Plus, some plans may include lots of doctors and hospitals, all in-network. Plans may include dental, vision, and hearing coverage, $0 copays for prescription drugs, and an annual allowance to spend on groceries, rent, and utilities for those who qualify. Plus, you may be eligible for a plan with free transportation. Remember, you don't get these benefits automatically. Call now and get a free, no-obligation benefits review. Just call 800-981-2945 now. That's 800-981-2945.
Law enforcement calls it house stealing, and cyber thieves transfer the title to your home out of your name to take out fraudulent loans or even sell it. How do you protect yourself? Get triple lock protection from Home Title Lock. Our triple lock protection gives you 1, 24/7 monitoring, 2, urgent alerts if any title changes, and 3, title restoration help from our team of experts. Do you know if your title is safe? Check your title status now at HometitleLock.com.
Hey,
I'm inside the bank.
what?
I don't have much time. Where's the $500?
I said drop your bank and get Dave, the banking app.
What?
There's an easier way.
Oh, she going to jail.
You can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less when you download Dave.
If you give a child a book, it's more than just a book. It's giving a child the equal opportunity to receive access to the tools they need to learn and grow. You can be the hero of a child's story. Donate today.
Right now, Idalia tracking across southeastern Georgia. It's about 100 miles southwest of Savannah right now on the East Coast and moving northeast at about 20 miles an hour. The storm already barreling through Valdosta, Georgia today. A flash flood warning was issued for the area earlier. Let's get you back out to Scripps News national correspondent Clayton Zandel, who joins us now live from Savannah, Georgia. So Clayton, we spoke a couple of minutes ago and it was raining, I believe. What are you seeing right now?
Yeah, it's weird, Veronica. It's been on and off. It'll be quiet and, no rain at all, and then we'll just get these blasts of rain coming through. But I will tell you, the winds are definitely starting to pick up, and we can show you, I hope we can see it a little bit. We're starting to see here on the Savannah River more heavy winds coming in and sort of kicking up these white caps along the river here that separates Georgia from South Carolina over there. Now, the storm is not here yet, but it is quickly bearing down on this area. It's already been raking across southern Georgia already today, leaving a path of destruction. We heard a little bit about the effects of the storm down south from the governor earlier. Take a listen.
There's been a heavy impact in South Georgia with heavy rainfall and heavy winds. I know most of the people across the state of Georgia will not feel the impact of the storm, but for those that were in the line of the storm, it is very hard hitting, and we're certainly watching that as it continues to move through the state. We had multiple counties in the affected area that are seeing winds in the 70 to 80 mile per hour and some gust up to 90.
So all of that weather that was in Florida earlier, southern Georgia now is headed this way. It will be here soon in just the next few hours. And what officials are really worried about here is the amount of rainfall. Here in Savannah, they're expecting around 3 inches, but to the west of 95, they're expecting around 8 inches or so. The storm is going to track basically a little bit west and north of where we are now. So people have been getting ready. They've been told to clear away a lot of the loose objects, lawn chairs and things on their porches and stuff like that that would fly around in a storm like this. The city and the county, they've also been out. And one of the interesting challenges of this storm is that it is coming from the other direction. It's coming from the Gulf rather than from the Atlantic, and they tell us that that presents certain problems. They actually have to prepare further inland than they normally would have to. So they've been spending a lot of time, for example, clearing storm drains of debris and branches in order to hopefully, when all that rain falls and floods, that it drains away quickly. So lots going on. We were out at Tybee Island, one of the barrier islands, yesterday. They have been getting ready basically by sandbagging, but a lot of those people are going to stay put. There are no evacuations in this storm because officials say it's just not making a direct hit here. Veronica?
All right, Clayton Sandell reporting live from Savannah, Georgia. Clayton, thank you so much for the update there. So it's not just Florida, Georgia, South Carolina that are preparing for this storm. North Carolina also declaring a state of emergency. Governor Roy Cooper is giving an update right now as the hurricane moves closer. Let's take a listen.
there's any question that with the predictions of a greater than average storm year, that we need to be ready and understand that these storms can come at us anyway. And so we really want people to prepare their homes, have that emergency kit, have that evacuation plan. These are things that you can do now, even if you're in the triad like you and don't expect a whole lot from this storm. Getting ready for the next one, I think, is really important for people to do. And as a state, as we look forward to what is happening across the planet, the effects of climate change, we know these storms are going to be more ferocious. It's really important for us to become as resilient as we possibly can when we build and repair, and making sure that we are ready for the years ahead. Next.
We have a question from Sam Walker, WOBX. Sam Walker, go ahead.
Thanks, Governor. Just some words for our visitors that are here, with this being the final week before Labor Day, not only here on the Outer Banks, but all up and down the North Carolina coast. A few words for them, what they should expect, what they should be ready for.
Yeah, well, we love our tourists in North Carolina. We know they come from certainly all over the country and even all over the world for our beautiful beaches. Though they are here, they need to be careful. We are not aware of any evacuation orders that local officials are giving. But when you do have tropical storm warnings, it's important to try to stay inside and stay off of the road for the period of time that the bad weather is here, and just batten down the hatches for a little while. You know, hopefully that if we get through this, they can still have a weekend that will be positive. But until this storm is past, everybody needs to be careful and stay safe. Next question. Okay. Thank you all for coming. Stay safe out there, everybody.
That was Governor Roy Cooper of North Carolina there, giving residents an update, saying that he doesn't know of any evacuation orders as of right now, but he is asking folks to be careful out there and to batten down the hatches. Now, many Florida residents still have not recovered from Hurricane Ian, and we're going to have much more on that. Idalia, though, is bringing back terrifying memories. In the meantime, Stephanie Suskin with Scripps News West Palm Beach spoke with a Fort Myers woman who wasn't expecting the emotional toll that these hurricanes are taking. Here's a story.
We had about 5 or 6 feet of water in our house, so we lost everything that we had in there.
For Kat Velez, it feels like just yesterday she returned to her South Fort Myers home after Hurricane Ian to find it destroyed.
When we came back, it was pretty devastating. I didn't think it would impact me as hard to see, you know, everything we own just moldy and stinky. I'll never forget that smell. And
it's been a roller coaster of a year, living in rentals and trying to rebuild. Her house was finally ready to move back in this week. And then here comes Hurricane Idalia.
So we're very excited to move home, but then here comes Idalia. So we're kind of freaked out, you know, to not even be back in our house yet and have the threat coming. It was just a lot I had to like center myself, like, it's not Ian, it's a different storm. Like, you just have to recalibrate where you're at emotionally and, you know, think logically about it.
That hasn't been easy, with the Southwest Florida community still recovering from Hurricane Ian.
You see other people recovering, some faster, some slower. It's just really a mix, and it's emotionally, it's a lot to kind of balance all of that and still keep life going and, you know, just manage the day-to-day stuff.
Hurricane Idalia is expected to spare Fort Myers the worst.
Oh.
Bringing Velez and her daughters some comfort and hope they'll be back in their home by the end of the week.
How do you think it'll feel when you can finally spend the night in your own home again?
Well, I showered there for the first time in a year the other day, and that was amazing. I know that sounds stupid, but I can't imagine like being able to live there again. And
bringing some normalcy to what's been a year of anything but.
Take a look at the biggest bird's eye view of Hurricane Idalia after it made landfall. Wow, look at that. The International Space Station releasing these images of the devastating storm this morning. That flyover lasted for about 20 minutes, but it doesn't really take that long to see just how massive this storm truly is. Look at that. Hurricane Idalia's impacts have been stretching from Florida to Georgia and into the Carolinas. And a rare blue supermoon could be raising tides and making flooding even worse as the storm swamps western Florida. The moon is closest to the Earth today, and that intensifies its gravitational pull, making those tides higher, and not just in Florida, but also in South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia. Storm surge expected along the Atlantic coast in Savannah, Georgia, and Charleston, South Carolina. Hillsborough County, where the city of Tampa is located, is feeling a double whammy right now. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been good to have you along with us. We'll have continuing coverage for you of Hurricane Idalia in the next hour as the storm continues to move across southeast Georgia. Our Del Walters is up next with correspondents on the ground for us in both Florida and Georgia. Don't go too far. The news continues right here on Scripps News Live. We'll be right back.